In 1982, safety seals didn't exist. You walked into a store, bought a bottle of Tylenol, twisted the cap, and swallowed the pill. No questions asked, no second thoughts. But on September 29th, 7 people in Chicago did exactly that. And none of them woke up the next day. Mary Kellerman, age 12. Mary Rayner, age 27. Mary McFarland, age 31. Paula Prince, age 35. Adam Janus, age 27. Stanley Janus, age 25. Teresa Janus, age 19. They didn't know each other. They lived in different neighborhoods. They had different lives. But they all shared one thing, a headache. Here's what makes this case impossible. The bottles were sealed, factory fresh. The poison was already inside when the bottles left the factory. Or was it? Because the evidence in this case doesn't just point to one killer. It points to 2 completely different crimes happening at the same time. A ransom note demanding $1 million, and a supply chain conspiracy that crosses state lines. This is the story of the most perfect crime in American history. The case that changed every product you buy, and the truth that still doesn't make sense 43 years later. Within 24 hours, the Centers for Disease Control descended on Chicago like it was a plague outbreak. They tested everything, the water, the air, the food supply, and then they opened the capsules. Inside, they found something that shouldn't exist in a medical product, potassium cyanide. But not just any cyanide, industrial grade, granular salt form, the kind used in mining operations and photography labs.
Tylenol. You found cyanide in Tylenol.
Cyanide contaminated Tylenol has been responsible for 3 deaths in the Iron Heights area. Do not take Tylenol until further notice.
Doctors called in reporters to spread the word. They had found cyanide in the Tylenol extra strength capsule bottle.
Here's the problem. Cyanide is hygroscopic. It absorbs moisture from the air. If you tried to pour liquid cyanide into a gelatin capsule, the shell would dissolve in seconds. But these capsules were intact. That means whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing. They used a dry, crystalline form of the poison. They opened each capsule with surgical precision, dumped out the acetaminophen powder, replaced it with cyanide granules, and resealed it without leaving a single fingerprint, without a single scratch on the gelatin shell. This wasn't a random act of madness. This was chemistry. This was patience. This was someone playing God with the most trusted brand in America. But the forensic evidence was about to reveal something even more disturbing. The FBI's first theory was simple. Someone walked into a Chicago drugstore, grabbed bottles off the shelf, took them home, poisoned the pills, and returned them. But then the forensic team checked something. The lot numbers. Every pharmaceutical product has a tracking code. It tells you which factory made it, which batch it came from, and when it was shipped. The poisoned bottles came from 2 different factories, one in Pennsylvania, one in Texas. They were manufactured weeks apart, shipped on different trucks, sent to different distribution centers, and yet, somehow, they all ended up on shelves in the same Chicago suburbs within days of each other. If this was a lone killer tampering with bottles in stores, how did they get access to products from 2 sides of the country before they even hit the shelves? The math doesn't add up. Unless the tampering didn't happen in Chicago, unless it happened inside the supply chain itself. But if that were true, it would mean one of 2 things. Either someone inside Johnson & Johnson's manufacturing process was involved, or the killer had access to the distribution network at a level that should be impossible, and admitting either option would destroy the biggest pharmaceutical company in the world. But everything investigators believed until this point was wrong. On October 5th, 6 days after the first death, a letter arrived at the headquarters of Johnson & Johnson. No return address. Postmarked from Chicago. Inside was a single typewritten page. I am responsible for the Tylenol deaths. I demand $1 million in unmarked bills or more people will die.
Reports that an extortionist is behind the murders in Chicago. According to the Chicago Sun-Times, the FBI is investigating a Chicago man who allegedly mailed a letter to the makers of Tylenol demanding $1 million.
Suddenly, the investigation shifted. They weren't looking for a ghost in the aisles anymore. They were looking for someone who wanted to get paid. His name was James Lewis, a 36-year-old drifter with a history of fraud and petty crime. The FBI traced the letter to a New York City apartment where Lewis and his wife had been staying. When they raided the place, they found his typewriter. The keys matched, the spacing matched. Even the worn-out E was identical. James Lewis wrote the ransom note, but when they brought him in, he said something that stopped the entire investigation cold. "I didn't kill anyone. I just saw an opportunity." He admitted to writing the note. He admitted to trying to extort Johnson & Johnson. But he swore he didn't put the cyanide in the bottles. And here's the thing. The FBI checked his travel records.
I swear that those prosecutors don't give a damn about those Tylenol murder victims or their families any more than a vial of AIDS.
It would seem what those victims' families would most want would be for James Lewis to say, "I did it."
Well, why don't you admit doing it?
I didn't do it.
Well, I didn't do it either.
During the week of the murders, James Lewis was in New York City. He wasn't in Chicago. He wasn't near the stores. He wasn't near the factories. So how does a man become the author of a massacre he wasn't even present for? There are three possibilities. One, he's lying. He did it remotely, with help. Two, he really did just see the murders on the news and decided to cash in. Three, he knew about the poisonings before they happened because someone told him. The FBI couldn't prove any of them. James Lewis served 13 years in prison for extortion and fraud, but he was never charged with murder. He walked free in 1995, and he took his secrets to the grave when he died in 2023. But while the FBI chased James Lewis, another team was running a quieter investigation, and what they found would haunt them for decades. The FBI pulled every bottle of Tylenol off every shelf in the Chicago area. Over 31 million bottles were recalled, the biggest pharmaceutical recall in history. And in one of those bottles, they found something, a partial fingerprint, on the inside of a bottle cap, not the outside, the inside. That means whoever left it had to open the bottle, handle the pills, and reseal it. The FBI ran the print through every database they had. No match. But here's where it gets strange. That bottle wasn't supposed to exist. According to Johnson & Johnson's shipping logs, that specific lot number was never sent to that store. It was shipped to a completely different state. So how did a bottle from a shipment meant for Michigan end up on a shelf in a Chicago suburb? And whose fingerprint was inside it? The FBI never explained it. Johnson & Johnson never explained it. And to this day, that evidence sits in a vault labeled unresolved. There's one more piece of evidence the FBI has never fully explained. Security footage from a Jewel Osco store in Elk Grove Village, September 28, 1982. One day before the first death, a man in a dark coat, a beard, sunglasses indoors. He's standing in the pain relief aisle. He picks up a bottle of Tylenol. Somewhere in that store, 7 people were already dead, and no one knew it yet. He looks around, and then he walks out of frame. The FBI interviewed over 2,000 people. They never found him. Every product you buy today has a safety seal because of what happened in 1982. Tamper-evident packaging, foil seals, shrink wrap. 7 people died, and the entire world changed overnight. But here's the question no one wants to ask. Was James Lewis a genius who outsmarted the FBI and committed the perfect crime? Or was he a desperate con man who tried to profit from a corporate disaster that someone else caused? The Tylenol murders remain the most successful unsolved crime in American history. Was it a lucky amateur who got away with mass murder, or was it a professional who understood the system so well that even 43 years later, we still can't see the edges of the plan? The seal was intact. The evidence defies logic, and the truth is still out there. What do you think happened? Was James Lewis the killer, or just an opportunist? Was this a corporate cover-up or a perfect crime? Drop your theory in the comments below. Subscribe to Vanished Mysteries for more cases where the evidence doesn't add up. And if you haven't watched our Dyatlov Pass investigation, that's another case where the physical evidence defies every logical explanation. The Tylenol murders changed the world, but 43 years later, justice still hasn't been served. Was this James Lewis or a supply chain conspiracy? Comment your theory. Subscribe for unsolved mysteries that challenge logic, and watch our Dyatlov Pass investigation, another case where the evidence makes no scientific sense.